There are many kinds of remembering, pleasant, idle remembering on a summer porch. Memories seem to come by themselves at such times as if they were fireflies. But some memories sting and are swatted away. Remembering then is hard and valiant. Charles Osgood tells us now the story of a man who would not allow the stinging memories of the past to be swatted away.
Last Saturday night, there was a ceremony at this place in the mountains of eastern France to remember the French and the Belgians and Dutch and Spaniards and Russians and others who died here 4.5 decades ago when it was a Nazi concentration camp. There's a ceremony every year at this time, but this year there was a difference because of something that happened 4,000 miles away. It happened here in Hackensack, New Jersey, where a young American lawyer's interest and persistence got the French government finally, after all these years, to acknowledge and officially remember the Jews who were killed at that concentration camp so far away, so long ago. The lawyer's name is Steve Draisin.
Oh, how are you? Pretty good. Just wondering what's going on with this project.
As an American Jew, he had heard about a concentration camp in France, and he inquired about it last year when he and his French wife were planning a European trip to visit her family. At first, he was told there was no such place.
I spoke to several people at the French government tourist office. The first person that I spoke to did not know of the existence. They gave me to somebody else who didn't know of the existence, who gave me to someone who said that he was a supervisor, and indeed, he didn't know the existence either.
But it existed, all right, and Draisin tracked it down, and last summer, he went there.
It was extremely bucolic, pastoral, green. It was just a lovely place that if it weren't for the camp, that you'd like to take a vacation. It was on the top of a mountain, and the camp is known by the name of Natzweiler-Struthof.
It has been nearly half a century, but though the camp is empty now, the ugly apparatus of slavery, torture, and death still stands. And there is a presence here.
It started out as a French resistance camp, place to intern these people, but it appears that the French are portraying it, or were portraying it, solely as that. And there was no mention whatsoever of the Jews who were killed there. In doing my research before I went to the camp, I read that there were 87 Jews who were taken from Auschwitz and gassed at this camp under the orders of Adolf Eichmann.
You see, when we came to Natzweiler with the Jewish stars, they told in the beginning that we came for guessing, to be guessed.
But Joseph Linden, who is 80 years old now and living with his wife in the New York City borough of Queens, was not gassed because they needed his services as an electrician. He wasn't there long, but he remembers it well.
The weather was very nice. It was warm. We came to the barracks. It was a terrible sight because you see people, skeletons, real skeletons, skin and bone. They were wandering around like mentally ill people. Didn't know what's going on, what was going on around them at all. There were people who starved to death from work.
Near the crematorium, where bodies were burned, was a pit of ashes where the commandant used to grow his vegetables. Steve Draisin saw that there were flowers now and a solitary cross. A cross, but no Star of David.
Nothing, nothing. No reference at all to the Jews that were killed there or in memory of them. And I just found that very upsetting. It seemed as if the French were, intentionally or not, rewriting history. I'm very much of the belief that if people don't remember something like this, then society will be condemned to repeat it. And without a memory of this, without a memorial, without any kind of notification to people that something like this had occurred, I thought it was a travesty.
So when he got home to New Jersey, Draisin began his campaign, writing to French government officials all the way up to President Mitterrand.
Basically, I was telling them that if there was a cross, if there was a reason for a cross to memorialize those of the Christian faith that were killed there, so too there should be a Star of David to memorialize the Jews who were killed there.
And what response did you get?
Totally negative.
But Draisin kept pushing, kept writing. He enlisted the aid of the Simon Wiesenthal Center and its European director, Shimon Samuels.
This is the correspondence between Steve Draisin and myself, between the French Ministry of Veterans and this office. We were very much involved in the fight to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive and the lessons to be drawn from it. And as a result, I saw this as an excellent case whereby we could prove two things. We could prove that the individual, no matter how far away he be from the time and the place of the crime, could bring influence to bear. And Mr. Draisin shows that one man can do something. And the second was that there is an integrity to history and a responsibility towards that integrity.
Draisin couldn't understand why the French would drag their feet on this. Surely it could not be French anti-Semitism anymore. Although French Jews do have some bitter memories of that time.
It's a fact of life that in 1942, there was a place called a kind of stadium called Velodrome, that they had cycling races. And they took all the Jews there from Paris in 1942.
Businessman Philippe Levette.
So they were taken by French policemen, driven in French buses by French drivers to a place that was encircled by French police. And then the Germans gave orders and the French police took them to the trains.
But this is 1989, and in May, the French authorities finally agreed to Steve Draisin's request. He and Shimon Samuels were invited to Natzweiler-Struthof to attend last week's ceremonies of remembrance. And next day, Sunday, with national French dignitaries officiating, there was a memorial for those who died there. Draisin and Samuels laid a wreath.
They say in the Jewish religion, as long as somebody remembers you, you are still alive.
And then, at the Pit of Ashes, a plaque was dedicated and unveiled, on which there is an inscription in French, which reads, in part, "In August 1943, 87 Jews, including 30 women, deported from the camp of Auschwitz, were murdered in the Struthof gas chamber." In the upper right-hand corner of this plaque,
there is a Star of David.